Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So there has been a new leak on The Wolf Among Us 2. It was actually on 4chan and I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on it. I will admit this is not from it mentions about its source, but at the same time the person who made this post could be lying, so I just want to confirm that this may 100% may not be. Take it with a grain of salt, pretty much is what I'm trying to say. But also at the same time, if you guys want to avoid any details about what the person in this post mentioned, I would recommend clicking off on this video. I will say from what I read, I will admit I was curious and I wanted to read it, and Wolf Among Us 2, obviously it's been taking a while, so that's why part of me was tempted to read it. I will say that in this video, the details that I'll be describing in this video are going to be the gameplay, some new gameplay elements, and like certain plot details that are very vague, but if you don't want to hear them at all, I would recommend clicking off this video because I will be talking about it. So I'm going to be reading you guys the post of what the 4chan post mentioned. This is someone that actually play tested the game. They mentioned about how, I'm just going to literally read it all to you, and I do playtesting part-time and my job is already at risk, so I'm gonna go all in and tell you guys about The Wolf Among Us 2. Bear with me as I never beat the first game. Chapter 1 starts with Bigby in group therapy. Snow White kinda forced him to go as he has anger issues. When you leave the session, you find a lady who just been robbed and needs help finding the culprit. So this is something that we already technically know from the trailers and stuff, that the group therapy seems to be like possibly like the beginning of the game or the beginning of the segment of the game. I find it interesting that the playtester mentions chapters instead of episodes. I think that's like a small detail that I think that expands. They're called chapters instead of episodes itself, so I find that like a interesting detail. Now, someone getting robbed and Bigby being involved with this is pretty small in comparison to a murder that was happening in the first game. Of course, this is like something that could possibly be building up to it, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I do see the group therapy thing being like an interesting part where obviously Bigby's introducing himself as the main character, and you basically can like, it's pretty much supposed to be like the introduction and like the trying to feel of like how the choice system works. I'm assuming it's gonna go with like the Batman the Telltale series approach, where it's gonna show Batman and Bruce, Batman fighting on the side and then Bruce talking to Alfred. I think they're literally going to be copying that exact same scene with the trailer that was shown, with Bigby fighting off against Lil Red's people and him talking in the group session about his anger issues. It mentions that the game is far from finished, however it got a visual lift since its first trailer from what I saw. It's hard to tell. We have gotten like new screenshots of like the graphics and it looks the same. I'm not sure how much they can really increase the graphics, to be honest, because I feel like you need like a certain shader or something. I don't know, it's kind of hard with like Telltale Games in general. I feel like if you were to enhance the graphics, you would have to kind of change everything about the game. So I'm really intrigued to see what that is so far. That's kind of why I'm like a little bit iffy on the graphics. That's kind of like why I don't want to believe the leaks so far, just because of the graphics, because I really don't know how Telltale Games can upgrade the graphics from the trailer. I know it's possible, maybe like the animation or something, but it's kind of hard to believe because of that. That's the reason why. Play some of chapter 2 where Bigby goes into a restaurant looking for info about theft going on, requires you to talk to Goldilocks, minimal gameplay. So Goldilocks, cool character. I heard that in the Fable comics. I think she's a bitch, I think, from what I've heard. I will admit I never read the Fables comics. I've always wanted to, but I just never have. I find it weird that I mentioned earlier that the Bigby and the theft thing is going on into chapter 2 personally. I'm really hoping it's not an issue like the Expanse, where the game feels like the episodes themselves are like really short because they have like a bad pacing issues and they're kind of rushing the game. I'm really hoping it's not the case with the Expanse, because I feel like with the Expanse, with the chapters of that game, I feel like it could have been good as a full game on release, but for them to release it as chapters, it felt like the game was very short, and I really did not like that approach they did. So I'm hoping that maybe this is just different, maybe this is early development, even though The Wolf Among Us 2 has been worked on for a while now. There's a segment where you search a mansion with Snow White. It's a multi-story and actually has a few puzzles to where you have to access a locked door on the top floor. Segment cut off when I got in. Obviously, there's going to be puzzles in The Wolf Among Us. I think it's cool that there's definitely like some moments between Bigby and Snow, because in the first game, obviously they worked together and Bigby had its like own solo missions, but I think definitely since Bigby and Snow are like the most important part about the game, I think it's cool that there's obviously like some they're working together moments. Next section shows Bigby getting back to his apartment where there's blood smeared on his door and a threatening "I'm always watching" on his apartment wall. That's the chapter end. Obviously it's kind of expected about them trying to create like thriller, trying to create cliffhanger, yada yada yada. It's a little bit expected. I feel like I sound like a douchebag at the moment. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like dissing Telltale Games or anything, but like I've played a lot of Telltale games and there's a lot of similarities between their games. Like The Walking Dead, like for example, always had a traitor. Some of the deaths can be expected, sort of. It's hard to explain. And choices not mattering, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like a repeated pattern. Wait, anyways, moving on. Buffkin is a character you can go for advice. He can also give you a bunch of random lore. He also tells some jokes and pisses Bigby off. This is the same as the first game, so as you can see, a lot of these leaks, it's really hard to tell if this is legit or not. Biggest difference I found between the game and one is a map system. You can fast travel between the apartments, a bar, a church, and other spots, but it's limited depending on the chapter. So this is the one that I found the most interesting for me personally, just because of the fact that when I think of a map system, I think of like a mini map like GTA 5 for example, but that would be very complicated, and obviously Wolf Among Us 2 is not going to be that type of game. So I was thinking like, it's going to be like a simple map system where you will be able to teleport or go to like other places. I'm wondering what type of puzzle will be with the apartments, bar, and church. I'm guessing it's going to be depending on like you have to talk to certain characters or like get information from certain characters and then go to another location. It's really funny because Telltale Games kind of did do this with Wolf Among Us 1. You were able to choose, I think it was in episode 4, you were able to choose a location to go to. I think you were able to go to like 1 or 2 of the locations. So I'm really glad to see that this is possibly being expanded upon, trying to make the puzzles more interesting. Maybe you get like one piece of the puzzle in like the bar, and then maybe you go back to the apartments to like complete the puzzle. But yeah, it makes sense that it's limited depending on the chapter because it's obviously scripted. The church is completely empty. I actually have no clue what it's for. You can sit down, but it's just a really quiet and accessible at any time, so I'm excited to see what it's even for. Like I said, it's possibly like early prototype of just the area, and they haven't even scripted anything for the game in the church segment, if there is a church segment. There's a lore book in the menu. You can collect pieces of it throughout the game. So, collectibles. I think collectibles are very important, and I think it's really cool that it's gonna be a thing, because Wolf Among Us 1 actually had collectibles, and they kind of stopped doing that after Wolf Among Us 1, which was very insane to be honest. Because honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think a lot of people in the Wolf Among Us Telltale Games community have read the Fables comics, so I think it's cool just to like summarize the Fables comics of certain lore or whatever into the Wolf Among Us 2. One thing I forgot to mention was that it mentioned about a save transfer works from the first game will give different dialogues, and there's also a caged bird in the main office, depending on some of the events you can pick from. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the Crooked Man, because I think the Crooked Man went back to the farm, but I think that's what they're referring to, depending on your choices, of course. Now, what is my opinion about these leaks? I think it's honestly a load of bullshit. It really feels like a load of bullshit in my personal opinion, just because of the fact that the graphics, I feel like Telltale Games can't really get any better than that. I really hate saying that. I really hate being that type of person, but I really don't think Telltale Games can get better at the graphics. I could be wrong. Who knows? Something interesting was about the lady who'd been robbed and it being like dragged into like episode 2. I think it's pretty obvious that this compared to like a murder in the Wolf Among Us 1, I think this is pretty low stakes. Like, it's just a lady who got robbed. Obviously, this would be expanded upon to like a bigger twist of like people getting killed and stuff, but for it to be dragged onto episode 2, like Telltale Games, you can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, you can do that, but like, I need to make sure it's not like a boring shit story. I'm sorry, but like I need to make sure it's not like boring and all. Which is why I'm kind of like a little bit skeptical at first about it. The save transfer thing is something that I find interesting just because of the fact that I feel like the Wolf Among Us one is really old, and I feel like it shouldn't really matter. I'm glad they're giving like different dialogue options, I guess, to encourage people to play Wolf Among Us 1, but I feel like at this point it doesn't really matter. I think they should just focus on Wolf Among Us 2 and to make sure that game is like more expansive with its dialogue options. But it's also really interesting because I saw someone talk about how I think they were working on Unreal Engine 5 or something like that, and obviously Wolf Among Us 1 was like the Telltale engine. So that seems really complicated with like different engines to make your save file transfer. I don't know how that works. Maybe they'll do something with like the Walk into the Final Season where you get to transfer your save. I am not sure. Yada yada yada. A lot of the details mentioned were stuff that we've seen in the trailer. The only thing that obviously wasn't like shown in the trailer was like Goldilocks and like the church. I don't remember no church in the trailer. The map system is something I can't believe because it doesn't have to be like a complicated system like GTA, for example. It could be something as simple as like an actual map of like just Fabletown. It's like a simple map with like a couple drawings. But yeah, I would imagine like a playtester who is leaking these details of The Wolf Among Us 2. They mentioned that they were going to be fired or something, or let go. I'm sorry, at risk they mentioned. And I find it really hard to believe that they would leak this just because Telltale Games, they're a very small company. It's not like Ubisoft where there's like a bunch of people. This is like legitimately like just a small group of people working on the game. So it's kind of why I think this is going to be fake in my personal opinion, just because of the fact that I would imagine a playtester would have to sign an NDA, and I don't know, I don't even think there's that many playtesters for The Wolf Among Us 2. I think Telltale Games themselves are playtesting the game. But yeah, I thought this was interesting to share. I just wanted to give my opinions about it because I know people would be talking about it and wanting me to make a video on it. So that's why I decided to do it. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like, share, subscribe, and let me know if you guys believe the leaks or not. I personally don't think it's real, but I thought it'd be fun to share with you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys later for another video, and I hope you guys have a good one. Bye everyone.